Wow. Oh, can you put that fish up there?
Wow.
No. So that has not much to do with the sermon. Actually, it has not much to do with anything except my ability to cut and paste my head underneath the guy's sunglasses.
Oh, boy.
And then I think the fish is exaggerated as well. That's just a fish story. It's a Photoshop demonstration. Now, I caught salmon before about that big, but just had nothing better to do while I couldn't sleep, so put that together. But today's message is the last. I'm kind of sad because it's the last message for this season from the Gospel of John, but we'll be coming back over and over and over and over and over again to the Gospel of John. But this will be the last one, chapter 21. And I titled this message, "We've Got Fish for Breakfast by the Sea of Galilee." And that's what we want to do. And but yeah, it's been almost maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years that we've been working through the Gospel of John, and I'm kind of going to have some withdrawal from not speaking specifically in John, in the Gospel of John. But we end this story kind of much like it began for the disciples, with a fishing story. And that it was the beginning and the ending sort of ends there. Now, of course, those are not the main factors of the Gospel of John. But in John, you can change that fish now to the John chapter 21. It says this: "After these things, Jesus showed himself again to the disciples at the Sea of Tiberias," which is the Sea of Galilee. It's just the Roman way of saying Galilee. "And in this way he showed himself." And so, two things there. After what things and which way? And so we kind of have gone into the which way, and mostly it's referring to last week. What had happened is that they had seen the risen Lord, one, and this applies to us. I hope you have, in your own mind and heart, seen the risen Lord by now. They had spoken to the risen Lord. I hope that you have, and if you haven't, you will very soon speak to him in whatever the next part will prompt you to do, which is they had received the Holy Spirit. And so, if you've seen the risen Lord, in other words, not the one on the cross dead, but on 3 days later risen with his incorruptible eternal body, if you've seen that and believed that, and then you've believed with your heart as well, right, to the risen Lord, then you've received the Holy Spirit. We learned last week that if you've done that, you've received the Spirit. The Spirit is in you. And perhaps a lot of the things that you may not know that are prompting you is the Holy Spirit. There's times when God is prompting you and perhaps convicting you of some sin or prompting you to approach someone or to say something, whatever that's the Holy Spirit working in you. They saw the empty tomb. This was not a joke. The tomb was empty and Jesus was gone. His garments were still there. Jesus appeared in their midst and he said, "Peace be with you." And then he said, "As the Father has sent me, I'm sending you." So after this part, he had already commissioned them to go and be his representatives into the world. Now later on, there'll be an outpouring of the Holy Spirit on everyone. that believes, but right now it's just these disciples. So they were commissioned to go. And I believe he's commissioning us to go. He then said, receive the Holy Spirit, which would empower them and strengthen them and open up the scriptures to them, and they would understand all these things. Mary had been at the tomb. She saw. She's convinced of the resurrection. The apostles are commissioned 8 days later. Right? There was one, Thomas. He hadn't believed yet. And then he was in their midst. 8 days later, Jesus goes back. And Thomas said, I believe. I believe. He actually said, he answered Jesus. He said, my Lord and my God, I believe. And so, as we ended last week in chapter 20, verse 30, with this verse 31, but these things were written that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that by believing you will have life. And so, last week we talked about a head knowledge, without a shadow. Some people say, I've done my research. Okay, good. But don't just leave it at your research. But this is something you can research, right? You can find out this is real. Happened. The world changed. Jesus came. He went to the cross. He died. Jerusalem is over there. You can go take a look. You can walk the streets that he walked. We can go there. I hope we could go together one day. That would be wonderful. We do church over there. Outdoor church in Jerusalem. What a wonderful thing. That's where Jesus was. And once that has happened intellectually, it comes into your heart and you say, wow. Like, what's wrong with me, you might say. But you might say, well, no, not what's wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you. You're starting to believe that Jesus is who he said he is. You believed it in your heart. And then you confess it with your mouth, and suddenly you have the Holy Spirit, and everything opens up. It's like you've seen things in black and white for all your life, and all of a sudden, there's color. You thought you were seeing the way things really are, and now all of a sudden you find out that's not what they really are. This is how they really are once we have the Holy Spirit. You thought you understood things, and suddenly we find out we didn't understand anything. You thought you knew the secrets of life and the world and wise men all over, and then you find out that God is using those things, like the foolish things of the world, to shame the wise men of the world. Because in the Spirit, show kingdom that he's doing, everything will be upside down, right? And so, go back to verse 1. It says, after those events, Jesus showed himself again to the disciples at the sea.